I suppose so. Not in particular, but we do have some questions from last meeting that I don't think we addressed or had time to address if we want to pick up those. Okay, well, we'll start with Hivie's one then. Hivie asked, will the laser editor have plugin support? Seems like a very good way to seamlessly integrate external mapping tools to the editor.
And I
Right,
just
that makes sense.
realized I was muted on my OBS, so that's gonna be a silent answer.
Stunning. Okay, do we want to just chew through these? We've got like 4 more, I think.
Yeah, keep going.
All right, next one is from Castagne, who asks, will the spotlights ranking button on the main ribbon on the website be updated? Currently, it shows the summer spotlights in 2020. Maybe there can be something about the most recent spotlights, lobby, and laser, or is this something that has been asked many times before?
You might be more familiar with this than I am, but I think Spotlights is starting up again this year.
Yeah, I think it had a bit of a hiatus for a while, but it should be spooling up again. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any serious formatting changes to it, though. I think it'll more or less just be the same as it was. I
This
think we go
they're
on.
talking about the banner on the Spotlights listing page itself. I missed the start of that.
I am not sure. Spotlight's ranking button on the main ribbon on the website.
Yeah. So that's just the listing interface. Yeah, I think that would just continue tracking the most recent Spotlight for the time being. We'll note that that page also is being used for showing multiplayer games in Laser. And that's actually been implemented now. You can see your multiplayer history, your Laser multiplayer history in your profile, and it'll use the same kind of display engine for that. So I think you'll see that develop as we roll that out more, as we increase the number of things which are displayed on that history page. Because right now it's kind of lacking the individual match history. It just shows overall stats like you would expect from a Spotlight. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and we have one from Aacai. Quick question. Any thoughts of adding PP calculator directly onto beatmap pages, something that allows you to see the PP of a beatmap straight from OSWeb instead of having to rely on extensions or third-party websites?
I guess they're asking for the maximum attainable PP value.
Yeah, I would imagine something like that, yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, we could add that if there's enough demand for it. I will say that in the laser results screen, you can, or in the next release, I think it'll probably roll in. You can actually see the maximum PP that's going to be displayed there. So yeah, maybe we'll bring that across to web as well. The reason it wasn't added from the start is that max PP isn't really. I mean, the PP was made to be a global ranking system, not a per map ranking. So the max value for a single map is not really relevant you would aim to get 100% accuracy or 1 million score rather than aim for 128.334 pp.
That actually brings one question to mind. What's going to happen to ranked score when everything moves over to like ticks of 1 or 2 million?
The score ranking leaderboard, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know how we used to, the first, before PP came in, how we only had ranked score?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to that?
I answered this in a previous meeting. I basically said, fuck it. And I think I pissed off a lot of people by answering that because apparently there's a small group of people that still are devoted to ranked score. So yeah, I don't have a definite answer there. Like if there's enough demand to keep it around, then we probably will in some way, whether it's tracking the classic score display mode we have in Laser, where scores aren't 1 mil capped. They're kind of closer to what you would expect from the previous scoring algorithm. Whether we do use that for that ranking specifically, because it's you know, it's a very niche audience. So if they're happy with that, maybe that's the best way to slowly sunset it or whatever you want to call it.
That makes sense. Okay, minor interlude aside, we'll move on to... I never understood how to say his name. Walavouchey? Is that how you say it? I'm just going to call him Walla. He asks, will teleports in Mania be supported in Laser when Laser releases as an update to stable?
Will teleports be supported?
I can't say I know what teleports are either, but he's in the chat, so maybe he can explain briefly.
I think that's when BPM is set to infinite to the point
Infinites,
where
yeah.
Notes come out of nowhere. Yeah, we'll definitely be supporting this in a better way than it's done in stable. It won't require hacks. So we already have in the Laser Mania editor, we have a new adjustable scroll speed setting, which is completely decoupled from slider velocity now. I think in stable you actually just had to change the slider velocity or BPM to make that work. We've already decoupled that, and I mean, it should show that we're willing to add new attributes to the bitmap format. I can imagine that there'll be a specific timing control point type for Mania, which lets you like just check a box and it'll do a warp or whatever. So yeah, I would rather implement those features in a way that isn't hacky, so that if we need to fine tune gameplay mechanics around those specific note patterns, we can do that. We can also better test against, you know, potential bugs caused by that, because in stable, because it's using like really high BPM values, there are edge cases, and you know, it could break a replay playback, or it could break anything really when you're pushing numeric values, floating point values to their extremities. Short answer, yes.
Nice.
It should already be supported for existing bitmaps, so if it isn't, maybe bring that up somewhere.
Good to know. One more from him, and then we're all caught up from last meeting's things. When will OS have an attract mode, aka start auto-playing scores after a while of idle time in the main menu?
So in Laser, we already have a storyboard playback mode. Autoplay, yeah, we can definitely add that.
That'd be a neat way of like, you just pull some random replay from like top 300 or something down.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure if you're watching my stream, but I'm kind of doing that right now in Laser. I'm just like basically auto spectating. I think that could work. It could just if you're logged in, it goes into spectating a random person that's playing. Or
wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if how many people here are familiar with the Aacai project, but that was pretty much a hardware thing I made, and that was using a branched version of the stable code, which had a lot of arcade features to it. I really want to bring that back in Laser and have like a toggle or maybe a command line flag at startup, where you can turn on arcade mode and it hides the exit button, hides some of the settings you wouldn't want people to touch, and adds things like attract mode, what you would expect from an arcade setup.
Neat.
So was that all the catch up?
That's all the catch up from last meeting, yeah.
Okay, well, we do have 2 people with their hands up, so should we start taking questions? EK.
Get on in here.
Don't know if it's EK or Ek.
Ek.
Hey, hello.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going good.
So I've been having lots of fun with Lazer, especially with the new mods, and I had a question about them.
Mhm.
I noticed that there's a handful of mods in the fun category that are a lot like the hidden mod. You hit the same notes in the same places at the same time, but with some sort of a visual gimmick. Do you think in the future we'll be able to submit scores with those mods to the leaderboards and gain ranks? Not necessarily with any score or performance multipliers, but just as a flex.
Yeah, that's the plan from the outset. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but any of those scores you set are already showing up on your profile under recent plays. And we don't intend to change that. So you will be able to submit any mod combinations to leaderboards. The hope is that it'll breed new kinds of prestige. Going for top scores with mods won't necessarily have a multiplier, which puts you at the top of the default leaderboard that displays, but you will be able to compare yourself against other people using the same mod combos on the same map, or at very least it'll show your mods next to your score. Even if you don't get the multiplayer, it'll be like, yeah, a flex, as you said.
Very nice, very nice. On that same note, I noticed that the new alternate mode is under the conversion mod category, even though it doesn't modify the map at all. I'm not sure if that's a mistake, but the same question applies.
So alternate is a mod where you have to always alternate your buttons from left to right.
Yes.
And what was your question there? Whether it
is it supposed to be under the conversion category? And
the category.
is it going to submit?
Yeah, so it was under difficulty increase category is where the person that made the mod put it, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So convert is like the the best place I could figure out where to put it. We don't want it in difficulty increase for now. I think we'll figure the main categories out later. Conversion seemed better than fun because it's like converting how you play the map, maybe.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people play full alt anyway, don't they? I do.
I would expect that sort of a mod to be under the fun category personally, but
yeah,
thank you.
Maybe
thank
we
you
need
for
more categories.
Of course.
I mean,
good luck.
At the end of the day, every mod is supposed to be fun, so why don't we just put them all under fun? That's probably arguable.
I had no idea that even existed. Holy shit, I'm gonna have to have a look at that.
It was added yesterday. I haven't really made a big deal of the release, but there were 3 new mods added to the game. There's aim assist, alternate, and shit, what was the third one? It was a mania specific, I think. Aim assist, alternate, and hold off, which turns off long notes in mania, converts them to normal notes.
Interesting.
Alex Osh 10. Come on in. Hello. I'm not sure we're getting voice there.
Speak quiet.
You're talking very quiet. we're gonna have to
Yeah,
move on from that one. I can't understand.
unless it was parcel tongue or something.
Maybe he was like,
Whispering
trying
and
to
then
eat.
voice cancellation was eating it. Yeah.
Oh
That kinda
yeah,
sounds
that could
like
be it. Yeah.
voice cancellation.
Lezaguring. Gurine.
Hi.
Hey.
So this is like a weird question. But do you think combining Zezer's rework and Emu's rework would be a good idea? Because like one values consistency and speed, and the other one values tech, kind of fucked up rhythms and shit like that.
These are two new PP changes you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I haven't been following along that closely with DivCalc PP changes recently, so I don't have a personal opinion on that. But from a system point of view, I think we at the end of the day we do want to have like coverage of the different skill types, and the eventual goal is to split them up in the display of like how much PP is attributed to each skill type for each map. So you'll be able to see, and for each play in theory. So yeah, I do think we want to go in that direction where we have different skills showing up. I can't say whether those two reworks, as you say, are going to meld well together, but that's where the review process comes in, and we have like pretty competent people looking at those changes. So I have faith that
That's
we'll,
great to hear. Thank you.
we'll come to some kind of amicable conclusion there.
Thank you.
No worries. I don't know if Smoogy's listening, but tracking all the work that's going on PP and DivCalc is like a task in itself these days. So I generally just like take a quick look and then continue with what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'd never be able to keep up.
Yeah, I take a peek every now and then in the network to keep up to date on everything. But there's a lot of outstanding PRs that need to be just gradually resolved, not like putting 100% focus. There's a few that could be merged in already. There's others that need a lot more care. It's just like just a tedious process. Just the review process part of things.
Cool. Akahito. Do we have a text thread going on this time? Are there any questions being asked there?
We do. And there has been one.
Okay. Well,
Hello.
if anyone has a text question that doesn't want to jump in voice, there is a thread on Discord where you can ask those. We'll bring them up.
I wanted to ask about a question about laser interface. There has been a change on the settings interface, but is there any plan to change the interface of the main menu or the song selection?
Yeah, there is. So the settings was the first part to be updated in the most recent version of the UI. We do have changes pending for song select and the main menu and pretty much everything else in the game. Our designer Flight has done a lot of future prep work to bring things a bit more into a more consistent state, because Lazer currently has quite a few different generations of the UI design implemented right now, so it's a bit all over the place. And the new designs that Flight's done kind of tone back how edgy the game is. It brings a bit more consistency, but also I don't know the best word to put it, but it brings it more in line with, I think, what people will be happy with using on a daily basis. I've heard a lot of people give feedback that Lazer is like too futuristic right now, and
okay.
I think the newer designs will improve that a bit. Kind of like how the OS web designs have you know, developed over the last couple of years, where when they initially released, a lot of people were preferring the old designs, but over time I think we've got them in a pretty good place.
Oh, okay. Another question is about laser submission scores, which is like, okay, laser has gotten pretty much a big improvement, both in high-end PC and low-end PC. And I think it's kind of usable for everyone, or I guess so. Is there any plan to submit score and gain effectively PP from it, or not really? Like, is it gonna happen this year or no?
Well, it has to happen this year because I've kind of been mentioning this a while now, but the remaining thing that needs to be done to support global leaderboards for laser, because so laser is already submitting scores, the scores are already calculating PP in the background, everything's kind of already being done. We just don't want to commit to showing the scores on the main leaderboard until we're 100% sure that from a consistency perspective, from a score validity perspective, we're not going to have to constantly delete scores and piss users off when we find out there's a bug, which means they aren't compatible with old scores. That's one area which we still need to improve on. So as I brought up in previous meetings, that involves like actually adding some kind of anti-cheat to laser, which we don't have right now. That's not the main thing. It's also about adding replay uploading from laser and improving the server-side processing. For instance, right now scores are submitted, but they don't increase playtime on the profile. They increase play count and hit counts and everything else, but not playtime. So I finished off that this last week, and they will very soon retroactively add playtime to your profile. But yeah, the remaining larger part of the puzzle is that we need to update the server infrastructure to support laser, and we didn't want to use the existing systems we had because they're falling over. Not necessarily falling over. They're hitting the end of like a primary key space. Basically, we've got too many scores, and the storage we're using can't store them in the near future. Like within the next 6 months, it's gonna run out of IDs. So I've been in the background like restructuring our infrastructure. And just over the last week, I've actually released a document. It's on GitHub, which shows the path forward and all the remaining pieces of the puzzle to get this in a state where laser can permanently submit scores. I would like to say there's about 2 to 3 months work there. And that's a developer estimate, so that's probably more like 4 to 6 months work there. It's obviously going to be going on in the background, and it's going to need to be delegated out to multiple people, not just me. The OSWeb team is going to have to update OSWeb to read from the new tables. And yeah, if you're interested in that, on the PPY GitHub, there's a new repository called OS Infrastructure. And that has a document explaining all this. It'll probably be linked in the meeting notes or somewhere. Can someone link it in the thread, maybe? In the meeting thread? Anyway, that kind of outlines the path forward. But yeah, definitely this year. Has to be this year.
Okay. Thank you for your availability. Goodbye.
See you. Yeah, there's a lot to be done, but we're getting there. And like, so the document I wrote up, I kind of diffed it with the previous version of the document I wrote, which was about 3 or 4 months ago. And just looking at the 3 or 4 month old document, which I haven't touched since then, like over half of the tasks which I said we needed to do in the original document were done. So we are making forward progress, and maybe more than I thought we were. Yeah. For anyone that asks when laser is actually submitting scores, it has been for over a year, almost 2 years now. So it does update your profile stats. It shows up in your profile. The only thing it's not doing is attributing to your total PP, which I guess is what too many people care about these days.
Also, just for the record, the document and the things in that document are holding back the new PP changes, the accuracy, well, the combo scaling removal that people have been talking about. So that's
Yeah, so it's a bit
We
of
were
a
just on that.
blocker for not just laser score submission or PP submission, but further
But also more
development
PP changes.
efforts. Yeah. And the reasoning behind that is it's going to allow us to store a lot more metadata against scores than we could before.
Neat. Shall we move on with some text ones, or do you want to keep taking some voice ones?
Let's do a couple of text ones. Then we'll go back to voice.
Okay. Well, StanR asks, how is score migration going?
I think I just answered that, didn't I?
Yeah, I think so.
So on the specific topic of score migration, I already did a full migration to the new system just to test things out, and it worked okay. Took a few days to run. We'll be doing that again in the coming week or two, and this time actually doing it in a way where we can keep them there permanently, in theory. The previous one was just to test the systems, test it can handle the load. The new one will actually be a stepping stone to allow us web to start displaying the scores, which means that there'll be a process which like migrates the scores which are coming in from stable in real time to the new tables. Even though the old systems are still writing to the old tables, we'll have them also being brought across to the new tables, and then gradually switch us web over to reading from the new data sources. And then eventually we can figure out if we want to turn off the stable infrastructure or move that over or whatever. But yeah, the goal is to get us web updated, so then all the scores which are already being submitted to Laser can start being displayed on us web in full detail. Right now they're only showing in the recent plays.
Can't pin them either, I don't think.
You can't pin them, no. That's from the old data source again.
Yeah, I figured that out when I set a fucking score on Pretender and wanted to pin it, and then I had to go set it in stable. Really shit my pants in the process.
Yeah.
Good times. Alright, we got another one from UberFazz. Minor question, can aim assist be renamed to magnet or similar to better reflect what the mod actually does?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we should rename it. It's too active to be called aim assist. Like, either that or we change how it works slightly to only activate when you get close to a note, to a hit object. Because right now it activates from like across the screen, which does feel more like magnet or something. It's not too late to rename, so we'll either rename it or change the behavior. Let us know if you have any thoughts on whether the behavior should change. So I was playing with it yesterday and kind of thought the same thing myself. It feels pretty good when you're like doing long jumps across the screen that you wouldn't necessarily be able to reach normally, and it actually does help. So from that angle, it does feel like a bit of aim assist, but yeah, it activates from too far away, so we either need to reduce the activation range to only when you actually are approaching a note, just to help you hit, like get that last bit of positional accuracy, or we can rename it to magnet or split it out into two mods or whatever we decide on.
Call it fucking motion sickness. God, how do people play with this?
Turn it down or something.
Oh, Jesus, that's actually nauseating.
Wait, you get it too?
Yeah, that is absolutely full on nausea inducing. I can't stand like 10 seconds of that.
I thought I was the only one.
Oh,
It's like
God.
mania to me.
Interesting.
It's
Like how your
worse.
screen like warps down. Yeah.
Yeah, the lack of like reference point is
Are you playing with like no background? I wonder if that changes anything.
Playing with blurred background on ultra wide.
Okay.
Oh man, it's the no reference point, or it's like you're staring at the center of your hit circle, expecting it not to move, and it moves. Ugh. Definitely not for me, that one.
Cool. Let's take another
Okay.
voice. Taz. Taz is a regular on
hi.
these meetings these days. Hey, how's it going?
I am? Oh, that's, I don't know how to feel about that, but thanks. I suppose I have three main questions. Also, I'm good. I suppose I have three main questions. My first one is, how will the transition from Osu to Osu laser look like on the player side? Will it be like a clean sweep, or are old scores going to be integrated somehow back into the new leaderboards?
So as I mentioned, with the new infrastructure, we're migrating all the old scores to the new. The hope is that it'll be a very gradual thing. Any changes we're making, we will do it bit by bit to the point where we're not hitting users with like a complete, because we're doing things like potentially standardizing the scores or having two different score display modes and potentially changing the way the multiplayers work. There's a lot of changes we kind of have proposed internally. We would probably try and roll these out in a way that doesn't, hit people in the face all at once. But yeah, the goal is to have all the old stuff displaying on the new, potentially before Laser is doing final score submission. Our goal right now is the migration to the new score storage infrastructure.
I suppose I'm not really asking it from like the technical perspective. I'm asking more so from the fact that Osu and Osu Laser, while they are the same quote-unquote game about clicking circles, a lot of the mechanics that Laser is built off, for example, the no note lock, the different scoring system, that is like, I feel like to a certain degree, one person, like a person, in this case me, could argue that the games are different enough to the point where I would wonder how you could integrate old scoring systems that weren't made from the same game into a new scoring system. How would that be?
How familiar are you with the classic mod in Laser?
Not at all.
Okay, so in each rule set, each game mode, there's a classic mod, and that brings back all the old game mechanics. And already in Laser, if you watch a replay made on stable, it'll automatically apply that mod, and it makes basically it makes the replays work again. It turns off slider accuracy. It changes the way the slider tracking works. All the little things which have changed in Laser get rolled back. And that's our path forward there. So from a user's perspective, if you're unstable, you won't see classic mode, but or maybe we'll start displaying it there, I don't know. If you're on Laser, any of the older scores get the classic mod assigned to them. So we kind of plan to make the leaderboard mod filter available to everyone, not just supporters. And for the people that want to play with the old mechanics, they will just be able to turn on classic mod permanently and play on those leaderboards.
How would you be able to rank scores that rank plays on maps that use classic mod versus the plays that don't use classic mod? Would that even
from
be
a PP perspective, or
from a PP perspective, or from like a general just as a ranking system?
Yeah,
are they
from a PP perspective? I think that will be, if it's not already, it'll be handled by the actual algorithm. It'll be aware of those differences. From a leaderboard perspective, we're kind of like, I mean, we haven't 100% decided on this, but shifting the focus away from mod multipliers, and it's going to be more like you're playing against people using the same mod as you, or potentially just turning off the mod filter and seeing which mod people are using, but having the scores still next to each other. Mods being more of a prestige thing. For classic mod, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe classic mod's a special one, and it'll be like a checkbox toggle, whether you want to play against classic leaderboards or new leaderboards. We will have to see how user perception is once we start to roll this out.
Okay, my other two questions are: one, how long will stable be supported after Laser becomes the main client in this case?
So
I'm mainly asking.
Yeah, go on.
I'm mainly asking this because I've seen some people, including myself, have better, I guess, frame stability in stable compared to laser. Like I will get random frame drops, and I'm guessing that's because of GC pressure, but I haven't done a lot of investigating into the problem myself.
Yeah. In our experience, stable has more GC issues than laser. So I don't know if you've tried over the last few months, but maybe give it another try if you haven't already. We also have quite a few future optimizations in mind, and the switch to .NET 6 and .NET 7 should also, in theory, help a bit from the GC side of things. But yeah, as for how long we're going to be supporting stable, similar to stable fallback, which is the last big client side, I guess, the last major release where we switched from using XNA to using OpenGL or using OpenTK, changing the engine we used. Stable fallback was supported until my goal was to get under 0.2% of users using it still. So stable will be the same thing, probably until the number of users using it are underneath 0.2% of the total online users, that is.
My final question is more of a quick technical question. So I've been actually trying the client. I tried about a week ago. And one thing I noticed is I've been traditionally playing OSU stable on Linux using Wine, and I have a custom Pulse audio driver partially adapted from the Plumes code, which drastically reduces my audio latency to like significantly below even Windows levels. And when I was trying OSU laser, I noticed that I was getting pretty high audio latency compared to what I was used to. However, there is I looked through the GitHub and there was an issue on this, and there's a comment that resolves it. And I wrote a patch based on that comment, which is somewhat ready to be pull requested. However, I use environment variables to set these values. Would that be all right for this situation? So the specific changes are simply just changing the period and the buffer length when you initialize BAS.
Yeah. So I mean, if you've read the discussion on that, it's still like up in the air how we want to support this or whether we will support this. It's a very Linux specific issue, and with Linux, no solution applies to everyone. So, you know, if we applied a patch like that, it's going to need... I mean, I already have a direction in mind. So the guy who did the previous settings for that they actually added it to the laser settings panel. They were exposing like too many variables, and it's just like I still have a goal of keeping the UX in a good state. So we will support adjusting the buffer length in the future. I don't think adding a patch which touches environment variables is the correct way. Like, it would need to set the values directly on the audio engine base.
Can I just say also that those variables depend on the system as well?
Like exactly, that's what I touched on earlier. It really depends on hardware and software.
We tried to reduce the device period already to something that was a reasonable value, and it still broke on some setups. I think it was maybe mobile that broke. I'm not sure, but I think anytime that you expose something like that to a user, it gets kind of sketchy. Also, Pulse has very bad defaults in general. There's like system-wide configs that you can enable.
Yeah, I've already applied those, which is how I can get low audio latency in OSU stable with Wine.
I mean, put it this way, if you're already using a custom driver or a custom Wine setup, then no, we're not going to support you because you're already doing your own thing, and we just can't support that kind of use case. If you're using something like Ubuntu, then we'll make sure that the audio latency is good by default. Same with Windows, obviously. Same with macOS. Same with mobile devices. But for anything custom, you're probably best just setting the environment variables on your PC and calling it a day.
Well, that's what I'm doing. However, the game's boot sequence doesn't read from those environment variables. The only thing I did is I created custom completely custom environment variables.
You have to set them at your driver level then, at your custom Pulse driver.
Well, you can't. The values are set by BAS in the initialization sequence. I can't set them outside of where it happens in OSU framework. I can't override that value externally. So, like when BAS boots up the device period, that's where BAS sets the audio settings for the current game session. So I can't really configure these values outside of.
Yeah, open an issue or like comment on the existing issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We really don't have time or manpower to handle per system Linux configuration right now.
In that case,
maybe in the future.
In that case, that's also fine. I can maintain my own custom patch set. However, this is going to sound kind of ridiculous, but I want to make sure that would using this custom patch to play on Osu Laser, like the online version, would that count as cheating?
It won't work, full stop. If you're yeah, well, let's move on to the next person. Thanks for your questions.
My bad.
You can compile lazer and play it, but it won't work for online systems. And if it is right now, then I would probably refrain from doing so, just to keep your account in a good state. But it's not going to work going forward, obviously. We can't support people compiling their own games and submitting scores. That doesn't make sense. Zet.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, so I just have a couple of questions about skinning stuff in laser, how it's going to work.
Yep.
So basically, one of my main question is if we have to code anything, like write actual code for like maybe animations, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, what would that be? Sorry for interrupting you.
So you're saying in laser, if you want to customize skinning to the next level, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, basically, well, I remember one of the previous meetings you mentioned like having sprite elements that we can animate.
Yep.
And one of my questions at the time that I couldn't get through was, how are we going to be able to animate those? Is it like writing code? And if that's the case, what would it be? Would it be like storyboarding in Stable or something similar?
Yeah, so we haven't really figured out how, like, the structure of that from a skin perspective, like how it's going to be stored in the skins. We kind of have an idea of how it will work, but it hasn't been implemented yet. And the same goes for like the storyboard editor in laser, because storyboards and skinning and everything laser is doing and stable to a certain extent, they all just use like the same kind of backend for transforms for doing all the animations. I can see a future where the storyboard editor in laser, when we actually getting to do that, will be usable for making skin elements as well. So it'll just kind of slot into the skin editor. So that's the ultimate goal, is to have a UI where you can create different animations for your skin elements in the game itself. That might not be there initially, and yeah, as you touched on, it'll probably be something similar to storyboards. The format, the file format might be a bit better, a bit easier to understand. Like we're looking at YAML or worst case scenario JSON, and when we do that, we'll obviously document it as well as we can. So if we don't get to making the UI editor, I'm sure someone else will make an external one or contribute one to laser. But yeah, it's just going to be a series of transforms which you'll be able to apply.
I think at worst case, it's going to be something similar to like WPF or Flutter or any of those like other UI systems, right?
Yeah.
We kind of like, you're not coding, you're just kind of like writing XML, basically describing how things look.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I like that idea, I guess. So last question, real quick one, is if there is if you're planning more actually to add like a Taiko section to the skin INI file. I saw a forum post someone sent me, and I was thinking, well, maybe that can be implemented on Stable somehow, or if it's gonna get added, will it be only on Laser?
Sorry, I was listening and I forgot the first part of your question there. How did that start?
Yeah. If
Taiko?
there's gonna be a Taiko section for the skin INI file, if we can add that on Stable Or is it only going to be on laser?
Stable is kind of feature locked, so we're not adding new things wherever we can help it. But was there a specific Taiko skinning feature you were after?
Well, yeah, the skin INI things, like the commands to change things in the game. For example, on standard, there is the combo colors or the font prefixes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I don't think we've added anything Taiko specific yet. But no, going forward, we've already got a new kind of skin configuration file. We're not using the skin.ini. And the goal is, again, to make UI controls to change all these settings. So you'll just be able to... I don't know if you've tried the skin editor in Laser already. You can hit Control-Shift-S and bring it up at any point.
Yeah, I have.
But yeah,
very fun, actually.
Cool. The next step there is to be able to like click on an element, like anything on the screen, and then on the right hand side there's going to be a properties pane where you'll be able to change checkboxes or change the font or change the sprites. All those settings are going to be in game rather than in a skin.ini file. We hope at the end of the day to not have users needing to go into their ini files to make changes. But your question about whether this will be ported back to stable, no, for sure it will not be. Because that's not one of our goals. It's just too hard to maintain new features in the old system.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, cool. So, yeah, that was it for me.
Cool. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you.
Keep going with voice ones?
We've got like 5 backed up, I think, for text.
Let's take one more voice then. Go back to text.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a bit of a question here. Is there the possibility of having a particular setting in the settings menu for retaining your selected mods after you've restarted the game, or accidentally clicked the Taiko difficulty on the song wheel when you want to select a map?
Yeah, this is a big one. Definitely, and I hope that's something we can get to in the very near future. Having the idea of like saved mod profiles, because I think most players, they either always play on a certain mod, like every time they start up, especially with the introduction of laser, where there's definitely going to be a group of players which have classic mod always turned on because they prefer the old judgment mechanics. So yeah, having the ability to
the new ones, but
yeah, cool.
Oh yeah, I can see the point.
I also prefer the new ones. But yeah, having mod profiles and being able to set one of those profiles to your startup profile, or just using the last one that you had set when you shut down the game, that's going to be the kind of direction going forward. And yeah, of course it'll be per rule set. So if you switch to Taiko, it'll remember your Taiko combination and switch back to OS when you get back to the OS one. And having some kind of like a similar thing to collections where you can choose a profile to add.
What I meant by clicking Taiko was accidentally clicking it when I just intended to select the song, and that resets the mod, and that's pretty annoying.
I'm waiting for Smoogie to come up and be like, we need to remove that feature, because he said that about 10 times. But yeah.
You mean on the video panels? Yes, we do need to remove that.
11.
All right. Well, thank you. That's all I had.
Cool. Yeah, there's a new mod select interface. I'm really excited to get that in because the current one is kind of shit. It's like too horizontal and it's very hard to find mods. But the new one makes it more of a full screen selection style, with mods scrolling vertically, and it'll bring the ability to search for mods and hopefully just make things a little easier, a little more discoverable. Text questions.
Text, you're taking voice ones.
Let's go text.
Okie doke. Quick one from LiquidPL. Is any part of the anti-cheat going to be open source?
So the implementation on lazer is kind of still in relative early stages. The goal is to kind of not have the anti-cheat anywhere in the main game source, because in stable a lot of the anti-cheat implementation is like across 50 different files in the game, and that's just the quickest way of getting things working, right? Because with anti-cheat you need to constantly be evolving it to keep up with the shitfucks which are, you know, developing the cheats. But in lazer, because of the way we're doing everything open source, we want to keep it as a completely separate entity to the game that's just going to be placed on top of it. I guess most games do that these days. As for whether it's going to be open source or not, I don't think you can feasibly open source an anti-cheat. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe some of the components we make for it might be open source, but yeah, I don't think that's feasible for the greater part anyway.
Just as a quick add-on to this, Taz wants to ask, have you guys ever explored server-side anti-cheat tech such as play analysis? I think we did at some point, didn't we?
We use a lot of that.
So yeah, short answer, yeah, we do. Okay. One more from Andy840119. Will customized rule sets be able to use their own skins, or for reading like extra file formats or something else? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Andy is the karaoke guy, isn't he?
Yeah. So he's like, I guess he's asking if you can have like customized skins specifically for the new rule sets.
I would need to know what you're after in skins, because rule sets should already be able to read from skins in terms of reading sprites and samples and stuff. Asking for maybe more of the configurations side of things. I think skins already let rule sets specify and read from the skin.ini, but with the new format, it's I feel like it would already just work. I would have to test it, but like we just have a new skin configuration. Wait, do we? So we're saving the skin layouts with the new skin editor, and in those layouts we're actually just serializing certain pieces of drawables. I don't know if it's in or not, if it's implemented yet, but the idea is that if you make a custom drawable for your rule set, drawable being, you know, UI element on screen, you'll be able to like expose any kind of bindables you want from that as settings. Similar to if you've seen how we do mods, there's an attribute you can put on any bindable, which is settings source, and that just exposes that to the user. And we kind of want to do the same thing for skinning, I think, where the rule set creator can expose these settings and then the user can, you know, hook in and adjust them with a slider or a checkbox or whatever. So yeah, I think rule sets should be able to do whatever the hell they want from a skin perspective. And I'd be surprised if some of it didn't already just work. If you make components with the correct iSkin, the skinnable interface, whatever it is, I think it would just like show up in the skin editor and whatnot.
Can I just say that I get more emails from us karaoke than from the us laser repos on weekends. Some pretty cool stuff going on in that repo. Pretty active.
I need to take another look at it. I haven't checked it out for like
and he's
probably
doing some good work.
A year or so.
Yeah,
fifth official game mode incoming.
I'm curious if Andy has tried a karaoke app called Blitz something.
Interesting.
Because that's made by a friend of mine. I'm curious if those two people have interacted with each other.
God, it'd be a small world, wouldn't it?
I think it's Blitzwave or something like that. Anyway, next, mangomizer has a question. Let's bring Mango in.
This one's less of an actual question, but I noticed a couple people in the Twitch chat are asking where they ask text-based questions. Are you taking questions from Twitch or not at all, or just?
I generally do check on Twitch. I thought maybe I misread.
I'm sitting in here as well. I think
Oh,
people,
yeah.
for the most part, have moved into the channel, so.
I thought they said when can we do text questions. It was a where. Yeah, if you just ask your question, I'll pick it up from the Twitch chat. But we generally take the text questions from, there's a thread in the OS development Discord down the bottom. If you find the community meetings category, we usually just make one thread per meeting there.
You don't even need to be verified or anything, you can just ask.
Yeah.
So nice and easy.
Goseale. Goseale.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
A pleasure to meet you, Pepe. I have one quick question that I don't know if you have already answered, and if it is the case, I do apologize. My question is, when will also Lazer's score count towards my profile when using the classic mode?
And by score, do you mean PP?
Yeah, like submitting scores and like it does on Unstable.
Yeah. So it's already the I touched on this earlier, but it's already doing the whole score submission part. The only thing missing is being stored permanently on the leaderboards and attributing PP. They're the last two things, and we're getting very close to being able to turn those on. It's just about making sure that we don't fuck ourselves over. We don't break history, and everything is kind of on a level playing field. You mentioned specifically classic mod.
Exactly.
I think the same thing still applies. Like, even though we have classic mod, we still need to make sure that because classic mod attempts to be the same as stable, but we know of a few edge cases where it isn't. So we just need to make sure that those edge cases are fine to leave in place, or we need to fix them otherwise. And as I mentioned earlier in this meeting, we're in the middle of like refactoring a lot of the server-side infrastructure to handle both laser and stable in the same leaderboards, and we're getting very close to having that done. Within the next 6 months, the infrastructure at very least is going to be updated, so I'm sure you'll see more pieces of laser scoring come online over that time period.
Oh, neat. Thank you a lot for your time, Pepe.
No worries. Yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's very hard to
When
keep
is
up
there
with.
not?
What?
When is there not? It's been crazy these past 2 years from dev side of things, as far as I can see.
Yep. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's about sums it up. It's a lot.
I don't even know how to put it into words. Like, trying to optimize all my existing tasks so I can increase my personal throughput, because I know I'm a bottleneck of a lot of things on us, especially with infrastructure, because I handle all that. So like I've been putting a lot more time into optimizing existing tasks that I have, or existing workflows where I can potentially reduce time I'm spending there, just so I can get a bit more efficiency out of it. But it's good fun. It's all good fun. We'll get there.
I think we're almost about out of time unless we want to finish with these other questions.
Yeah, we can do a few more.
Okay. Skubi asks, any thoughts on giving more possibilities for user page personalization?
Okay, so there's currently a user profile redesign coming in, which you'll start to see probably in the next week. And the reason I bring that up is because it's going to move the user page around again. And I think we'll wait for that to hit first. But if you do have any suggestions on what you'd like to see in terms of customization, then maybe bring that up. But I mean, user pages are already like free-form text areas, right? So you can do whatever you want in them. If you have a specific feature that you think is missing, then yeah, tweet or GitHub that shit, and we'll give it consideration. Crado says, I'm still getting used to the current one in terms of user profile design. Yeah, the upcoming designs, if anything, as with most of the recent design changes, bring things back to how they used to be. Like, I don't think anyone will, at least the first half of this new user profile page design, it's so like logical as a progression forward that I don't think anyone is going to complain. It just makes things look and feel nicer.
Neat.
Is that all the text questions? Are we out?
No, we've got 2 more.
Mangomizer's back again as well. He just
Oh,
doesn't
God.
go away.
Text or mango, choose.
I already clicked his button.
Oh.
But feel free to...
Okay, he's taking
Shit
too
some
long.
more.
His candy's gone. Drophead27 asks, I've been playing lazer for a long time now, and it seems like there are still some issues with how the window behaves, SDL, that have been here since the switch from OSTK, which are not a fantastic user experience. Is it useful to keep reporting those issues against the OS repo? And if not, won't SDL's problems and slow fixes / updates push players away?
Oh, I have so many things to say from that one question. OSTK to us is like a piece of shit to start with, so that's why we use SDL. SDL's update speeds being slow. I don't know if you've looked at the SDL repo, because I watch every issue and every commit on that, but they are insanely fast at releasing or making changes to the code. So maybe you mean by slow update release speed the rate at which they release actual major like binaries on their site. We're not tied to that because we manage our own fork of SDL, and we always track their master branch, so we pull in the latest changes as soon as possible. I've already contributed some fixes to SDL directly, and we have a few other people like Cisco3 who help out on that front quite a bit. I would be interested to know if the issues that you're seeing with the window handling are on Windows or Linux, because that changes a lot as well. If it's on Windows, first of all, we're probably already aware of it because we track the issues pretty closely, and like I notice all the weird edge cases that SDL can have. SDL isn't to blame, obviously. Windows systems are a shitfest, especially when you're trying to make it work across 5 different operating systems. And you said, where should you be reporting these issues? I would report it to us if it's Windows. I would report it to SDL if it's Linux. If you report it to us and it's Windows, we'll track it from our end because we're most interested in supporting the majority of users on Windows. And we'll probably also report it upstream to SDL on your behalf if you don't do it there, or we'll work around it locally. But yeah, I would really need to know what your specific remaining issues are, because we have things in a pretty good state. There's a few edge cases with like mouse handling where the mouse can flicker at border of windows, or potentially recenter itself in certain modes when you have raw mouse turned on. Some focus issues, but things are improving there, and yeah, SDL, their devs are very dedicated. They don't have any testing process in place. They just like push shit out and I guess wait for it to regress or work. It's an interesting way of doing things. It's very different to how we're doing it. We're a lot more methodological
Sounds strangely relatable to me.
Yeah, it's like how I used to develop Stable. Allows for very rapid development, but whether that end product is gonna last forever is up in the air.
Okay. Well, we got more text questions now. I don't know if we have time for them, but Mango's in here.
Did you have something to say, Mango?
Mostly just the closing comments about when you think the next meeting is, but if you want to take more questions, then go ahead.
I'll leave it up to Ephemeral.
What if we take more questions? You're in the fucking meeting.
Yeah, you choose.
Oh my Christ. Okay, we'll take more questions.
Well, if we can get the questions down to 0, then... Or maybe we want to keep some questions for the next meeting just to, like, pick it up at the start.
Okay, we'll do one more.
One more.
We'll do one more. It's just some dude's question, and he asks it. The in-game leaderboard seems kind of useless right now in solo. You see your current score versus everyone else's score at the end of the map. Is it in the plan to make replays that you have locally, maybe, show the replay's score at the current time in the map and update the positions relative to that?
Yeah, so you're talking about basically ghost scoring, where every score in the leaderboard gets updated in real time based on their play. Yeah, it is I would have liked to see that done like years ago. I got halfway through implementing that. Obviously, from an infrastructure perspective, getting that working is a bit of a nightmare. When you have,
I think I remember you talking about that when we were still calling OS Laser OS Next.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this again, but locally, Stable already stores all the data that's required to make that work. There's an OSG file format which is like contains the ghost data for scores. We do plan on doing that in Laser. Whether it'll work for like global leaderboards for every score is to be decided, but at very least, wait, was his question specifically about local leaderboards, or did he say like the global ones? I think he said local.
Specifically
right?
about local.
Yeah,
he's referring
okay.
to Seoul,
So
I think.
yeah, 100% local. We'll have that in Laser. 100%. For online leaderboards, obviously it takes a bit more work to make that happen. So whether we'll get to that point or when we will get to that point is a bit of a question for the future. Maybe we can, like, once we have the new statistics coming in from laser scoring, maybe we can kind of best effort guess at what people's scores are in a certain point of the song and have the leaderboards update like that, having real-time data for every player. Because the other thing is, for leaderboards, we kind of want them to scroll. It's a very similar train of thought to what was this guy's name? The best dude?
It's just some dude.
Just
that's
some
his name.
dude. Yeah, whether we do the whole ghost thing or the other option for like global leaderboards is having the leaderboard like scroll through all 10,000 scores on a beat map and having your place go up as you go on. So the other scores are still their final stagnant scores, but you see yourself going through the ranks as you play. Would be another better than what we have, I think. Rather than seeing only the top 50, you would actually see scores around where you are going to place in the map. So definitely want to iterate on that and make those leaderboards more visually entertaining during gameplay.
I think it'd be cool to just have a target score, like pick a replay from like whatever leaderboard, country leaderboards or global leaderboards or whatever, and have that go up along with your score. Because you can't see like,
yeah, like a head-to-head
all
mode.
the scores on leaderboards pretty much have replays on them, right? So yeah, kind of like head-to-head.
That could be a cool
I'm just thinking
option.
something
Yeah.
like BMS, right, where it has that like bar that goes up.
Yeah.
Like target players and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd see if we did something like that, it would probably use like the same interface that we use for multiplayer. Like it would create a kind of head-to-head multiplayer game against a previous replay. That could work quite well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great. So now I just guess we figure out what time we're doing the next one at.
Yeah. So this one was the US time zone. We'll probably do another earlier one next time. Last one we went really early, didn't we? It was like 6 hours earlier than this.
Yeah, it was European.
No, I don't think so. Last one was 4 hours at 21 UTC, and I think people said they felt it was still quite late for Europe, so people actually wanted even earlier. And then the discussion, I think the consensus was that if we did it earlier, it'd be better for your sake as well, because you wouldn't need to sleep or something.
So we can try like
Just-
8 hours earlier than the current one, or 12 hours earlier even, and see how that works. Like go for a completely different... I mean, we have these meetings so often that I think completely shifting it around the time zone isn't an issue. Like if half the people miss half the meetings, we do record them all, and it'll just give more people a chance to ask their questions where they couldn't make it otherwise. So maybe we should do a 12-hour switch next time.
12 hours, so that'd be 13 UTC on Feb 19th. That's a Saturday. Is
Sounds
that
good to me.
Yes, I was just doing that math in my head, but yes, that does sound correct. Yeah, so Saturday at 1300 UTC will be the next meeting, which is, for those who don't want to calculate that in their head, it's 12 hours earlier than this meeting was in your time zone.
An actual same time for once. Amazing.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Oh my god, I just want to fucking sleep.
I have a very quick personal curiosity, if you have time for that. I was wondering about the songs that are licensed on OS Stream. Are they also licensed under OS, or
No.
is OS Stream? No, okay.
That's completely separate. But if you have a request to use those songs or something, bring it up and tweet at me or something, and maybe we can get a featured artist sorted out for those artists.
Exciting.
I know most of the artists which were on our stream I've already reached out to. Some of them haven't responded. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But, that was
Sometimes you got to poke them like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. But yeah, it was done under different licensing terms. That was revenue share rather than the way we do featured artists these days, which is more geared towards how us works as a community.
It's going to be a crazy thing when that just makes me think of like when you finally get lazer like on Android and iOS app stores proper. It's going to be like a whole new generation for us, really.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting to navigate.
Lots more people.
Lots. If any other games are anything to go by, it'll be anywhere from like 20 to 80% more people, which is horrifying to think about. Mobiles are huge.
I need to find a successor before then.
Clone yourself. What other choice is there?
Anyway, let's end this meeting here on a very high note. Thanks to everyone for coming. Maybe see you next meeting. If your sleep flexible, if your sleep schedule is that flexible.
If it's a normal, more like.
No. Well, that depends on where you live, right? Good night, Ephemeral.
Good night.